Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have week 8 of my 12 Weeks of Christmas series, so let's jump right in. So as usual, I like to start by cutting down my cardstock so that I know what I'm working with, and this one is kind of multi-layered heavy, so we are going to cut down quite a few things here. So to start, I'm going to cut down my favorite HammerMill cardstock to be about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the A2 base, which when scored and folded is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to cut down a silver mat. So the silver mat is the Tim Holtz Sparkle Classics craft stock, and I'm cutting that down to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the A2 base, giving me just a nice thin layer all the way around. And then I'm going to cut down, this is one of my pattern papers. If you guys noticed, I recently released 3 sets of pattern papers. They are digitals. You can download them from my website. They'll be linked and listed down below. And this is the Distressed Damask pattern, and I love it. Now, there are so many things you could do behind these shaker windows. You could ink blend, you could spray, you could use different pattern papers. There's so many things you can do. However, because I am super proud of these papers, I spent a lot of time, picking all the elements and working on them and doing all this stuff. So I really want to bust them out and use them. But you can use whatever you like to go behind the panels where you're going to see the shaker elements. These are going to be cut to the same size as those HammerMill pieces. So they're going to be 1/4 of an inch smaller than the A2 base because they're going to go right behind the shaker window, just creating something kind of fun in the background, but I still want it to be subtle. These cards are a little bit more subtle than my usual ones. As a general rule, I do tend towards a more is more style of creating and super vibrant colors. However, because you guys, I want to inspire others to create, so I do try to create things that are different than my vibrant style all of the time. Now, not to say that these didn't turn out beautiful, because they did, but I do kind of try to alter my style a bit just to make them a little more approachable for different styles. So I'm going to cut out 3 circles on each of the HammerMill panels. These are for the shaker elements. So the circles are where all of the shaker bits are going to be behind the panels so that you can see them shake around. So I actually lined up 2 pieces of HammerMill cardstock here because I thought that I would just inlay the die back in, and that would give me, placement for the next layer. However, it didn't end up working out that way because it cut through both. So I ended up using the front piece as a template. Now, this tape is new to me. It was actually sent to me from a very kind subscriber. She got it mailed to my PO box. It was really, really kind of her. And this is my first time using it. And now it does not tear the paper, so that was phenomenal, but is really, really sticky. So I ended up using the first HammerMill panel as a template, and then I'm just going to stick that on each of the layers behind it because it's cutting through beautifully. So I just stuck down all of the circle dies, and this is just a nested circle die set that I have in my stash. You could literally do this with any shape too if you didn't want to do circles. So I did that with all 5 panels. I just cut a new panel and then used that front one as a template. And then for inside of the circles, we're going to make shaker windows, so they are going to have a piece of acetate, but to sit on top of that, I wanted to add snowflakes. Now again, you guys know, if you've been with me for any length of time, I love snowflakes so much. If snowflakes are not your jam, you could easily change this. They could be stars, they could be flowers. If you wanted to make it like a birthday card, you could have like one gift and 1 balloon, or what, that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind. Depending on what season you are creating for, shaker cards can be for any season. I just happen to be making for Christmas. And because the challenge for my Facebook group this month was shaker cards, I thought it would be a fun idea to give you guys just another look at a way to, now the technique is the same as the shaker cards I made for the beginning of the month. However, it's just a completely different feel. So keep that in mind if you're struggling with your entry to the challenge. If you're in my Facebook group, no problem. Here's another kind of example of something you could do. And of course, you guys have seen the kittens are helping me out. They are so helpful when I am creating. They like to chase things across the desk. It's really cute. So I did leave a little bit of that footage in for you guys to kind of check it out. So I took out 3 snowflakes that fit mostly within the circle that I had cut in the front panel. They're going to sit on top, so they're going to cover the shaker element a little bit, but this just gives you another look of having like the shaker be more subtle in the background rather than the first set that I made where the shaker was incredibly obvious because that's the only thing on the front really. So this is just kind of a different way to create a similar feel of a card, but have the shaker be a little less subtle and the snowflakes be more obvious. Now, I did learn from that first card, the shaker cards that I made, when the acetate stuck to my sticky mat that's in my Misti. So I am going to stamp out my sentiment first before I add the acetate on the windows. So I just picked out a sentiment from my very favorite Christmas stamp set. You guys will have seen it multiple times. It is the Christmas Blessing stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I love it. I use it all the time. You guys see it, almost every Christmas card, really. And I'm going to use a Distress Oxide ink that kind of matches my patterned paper that I've created. So for the colors, I brought out Spun Sugar, Cracked Pistachio, Tumbled Glass, Weathered Wood, and Shaded Lilac. Because they were still subtle, but they got very close to the colors I had chosen out of my patterned paper set. Because my patterned paper set has 12 colors in it. I just chose the lighter ones for this because I thought that they would be a little more Christmassy, but honestly, you don't see a lot of the background once we build this card, so it really wouldn't matter. You could pick something more vibrant or more eye-catching because you don't see a lot of it. So keep that in mind when you're choosing whatever it is you're going to work for with your background. And then we're going to stick the acetate down. So I cut my piece of acetate. I cut it down. It's 5 by 3 3/4, I'm pretty sure. I just cut it to fit nicely around the windows without going all the way to the edge because we have to add our foam tape. Now I am making another kind of more traditional style of shaker card here. I have a ton of flat shaker cards on my channel if you want to go that way instead. I also have a couple of live streams of flat shaker cards if you want to like a real-time creating. If you're struggling a little bit, maybe that real time would be a little easier to follow along with than the quicker videos. So you can definitely check those out. But I'm just adhering down my acetate with some liquid glue. I use liquid glue because I kind of like that I can smush it under my acetate while staying away from the actual window portion. I don't want the glue to go on the acetate that you're going to be able to see because it would make it milky, and we're not really going for that. But you could, of course, you can always use other things if that's what you have. Some people prefer, tape. Some people for double-sided tape or tape rollers or whatever you have, use that. Just try not to have any adhesive in the window portion. And then I'm going to go in with my foam tape. So here I am using 3M foam tape. I think it's just because I've had this roll forever, and honestly, I'm a little worried it's going to lose some of its stick. So I'm going to use it for this project, but use whatever foam tape you have. My favorite foam tape is actually the Big Mama foam tape by Simon Says Stamp. However, with all of the tariffs and everything, it's really expensive for me to get. So the Big Mama foam tape, I think, is like $38 American, and then I'd still have to pay another $10 shipping. And then, of course, it hits the border and I have to pay a bunch of tariffs. Whereas I can get the 3M tape, this foam tape, from Amazon, and it costs me like $70. So in the end, between all of the fees, it's the same amount of money. So don't be surprised if you do start seeing the 3M tape pop up a bit more, just because it's easier for me to get where I live. That's the only reason. The 3M tape is still, the Big Mama foam tape from Simon Says Stamp is still my favorite. It's just really difficult for me to get with all the tariffs and whatnot. So use whatever foam tape you have. Just keep in mind, the thicker the foam tape, the thicker the layer you're creating, right? So just keep that in mind. And I went around the edge and then I created wells so that the shaker bits would, for the most part, stay within their circle. Otherwise, they would pretty much all fall to the bottom and you wouldn't really be able to see them. So this is just a personal preference. You don't have to. If you want to add a bunch and have them shake around the whole card, you could skip doing this center, kind of creating the wells, but up to you. And then to kind of try to stop the shaker bits from actually sticking to the sides of the foam tape, I did bring in my anti-static foam or anti-static powder tool there, and I just kind of ran it gently around the edges just to kind of unstick any that might be on the very edge of the foam tape. Now the next step, of course, is to pull off all of the backing because we are going to add the shaker bits. Now there are two ways you can do this. In the card that I made earlier in the month, I put the shaker bits on the background and then I stuck down the panel. That is definitely something you could do. However, because this one is 3 separate sections, and because I'm going to add a background that's the exact same size, I opted to put the shaker bits directly onto the card front, and then I'm going to adhere the panel to the back. You're going to see me do it here in a second. And now for my shaker bits, they're all from Tim Holtz. I have the rock candy glitter, I have the Mica flakes, and then I have the chunky rock candy glitter. I choose this glitter specifically because it is anti-static. So it is less likely to adhere to the panel, to the acetate, and just get stuck and not move. So that's why this is my preference, but you can use whatever you want to use. This is just what I prefer, so that's the direction I go. Now, the only thing that I did notice with the first one that I did, because I did the pink one first, you just saw that, I needed to smush down the glitter a bit more before I adhered my panel. Because I'm not using a super thick foam tape here, I don't have tons of room when I stick it down. So because of that, I actually had the glitter leak a little bit behind the pink one, and I had to lift up a corner and just glue it down. You're not going to see me make that fix because I didn't realize it until after I had finished filming and it was like later. But all I did was just glue the corner. So when I did the other ones, you'll see that I actually moved the glitter around a bit more before putting the panel down or the background down to make sure that that was not an issue. Now, I'm sorry, my camera zoomed in a little bit here. I'm not sure why it did that, but it did. So we're a little bit closer focused. So sorry about that. So all I'm doing here is I'm adhering all of my shaker panels that are all completely done now to the silver glitter background. Now I do pretty much every video when I do this, I get a comment about how I should be, cutting the silver panel down so that I can save a bunch of material. Now, here's the thing. At the end of the day, you need to do whatever works for you with your stash. I do not prefer to do that. I don't like how it looks. I don't like that it sags. It is just not my preference. So I don't do it. However, if that's what you want to do and that's what you enjoy in your stash, absolutely do that. It's just kind of funny because I get that comment a lot, and I'm always a little unsure how to respond because I'm aware that I could do that. I just choose not to because I don't want to. Especially with this specific material. So this is the Tim Holtz Sparkle Classic Craft Stock, as I said earlier. And because of how tightly it's in the package, or maybe how it prints, I'm not sure, it has a really big curl in it, and it's a pain to get it to lay down. So I couldn't imagine fighting with this thin layer around it. Like I don't need the hassle. I don't need the headache. I'm happy with my creating, but you should 110% do whatever you need to do with your stash, whatever makes you happy. So please do that. Then I'm going to bring in those snowflakes we cut earlier. They're going to go in each circle because I just think now you could skip this. Like you could stop here if you just wanted those cool shaky circles and you don't want something in front of them. By all means, like they're beautiful regardless. It's a fun shaker, but I did opt to add these little snowflakes in front. These are from the Paper Snowflakes mini series from Tim Holtz. I don't think it's available anymore. I got it a long time ago, but if it is, as always, everything will be linked and listed down below. It's always, if you're ever looking for a product I've used, they're always linked and listed down below. If you don't see something, by all means reach out. Maybe I just missed something, but if it's not down there, it's usually because it's not available anymore. And I will try to find you something similar if I can. So it might be something like Snowflake Dies instead of the Tim Holtz one specifically. So just keep that in mind. So I did have to put those under my Misti just to get the silver cardstock to adhere, because it did curl and it did not want to adhere to my panel. So I did end up just setting them under my Misti for that little bit of extra weight, and then they did adhere pretty nicely. And then now I'm just going to start adhering them to their bases. I am going to stamp on the inside of the card bases. I'm going to show you that at the end. I just brought some snowflakes in from the Mr. Frostie stamp set, which is a Tim Holtz set as well, and I just stamped them in the matching Oxide ink I used for the sentiment on the front. And I am, of course, going to bring in some pearls just because that's how I roll. They don't need an embellishment, but you absolutely can add them if you want to. I quite enjoy adding embellishments, but completely up to you is what you want to do. And I'm sorry the camera's jerking around a little bit here. I struggled with my camera through this video. I don't know what its issue was. It just, for some reason in some of the clips, it just moved a lot, and I'm not really sure why. So some of the clips are great and some of them have a bit more movement than I would like. I apologize for that. Hopefully it wasn't difficult to watch. But yeah, so I'm going to add those pearls. And then this is pretty much the cards I have for you guys today. So I hope you liked them. I hope you'll leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing. I am at this very second of editing, I'm about just shy, I think it's like 900 people away from 20,000. I had to think about the number there for a second because I'm still a little shocked by it. I am like, just shy of 1,000 away from 20,000 subscribers. And I wasn't sure I was going to accomplish that this year. So if you are not subscribed and you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you as a part of the team, a part of the members here, the people who watch all my videos and come and hang out. I would love to have you. If you are subscribed and you're part of that 19,000, thank you so much. I cannot express how much I appreciate you. And if you're one of my channel members, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. You make me creating this free content consistently something I can achieve because you're, helping me keep this going. So thank you so much. So if you guys want to check out the membership, it is linked and listed down below in the description. You can go and check it out. It just supports the channel, and that is something I really appreciate. So thank you guys so much. If you made it all the way to the end, put in your favorite winter emoji, whatever that might be. For me, of course, it's always the snowflake, but any winter-esque themed one. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.